Hata mimi nasema singependa Raila achukue hiyo kiti kwa sababu saa hii mali tunaelekea uchumi ni mbaya sana. Mimi ningependa sana aanguke hiyo kiti kwanza. Akuje kwa ground kwanza tujaribu kuona mambo ya Kasongo. Ni hiyo tu, sina mengi. Yo, kwa majina ni Victor. Pia mimi ningependa kusema like kama atapata, wacha apate. Because mzee naye pia acha atu represent, si ndio? Because hatuwezi mtakia mabaya. Mimi nasema tu all the best. All the best.
Yes, kwa majina naitwa Nchichir. Natakia papa, natakia kila laheri. Ametafuta kiti kwa miaka mingi. Hii aende nayo retire. Namtakia kila laheri. Yes.
Caroline Mbaye apitwe nyuma yake. We support him as Kenyans. Yes.
Yes. Kwa majina naitwa Makaveli Trevor. Hivi tunaombea baba ashinde hiyo kitu. Yeye ni Pan-Africanist. Wacha aende akalie ile kiti, asaidie Afrika na alete demokrasia Afrika. Asante.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Daniel. Mimi nataka kutakia baba kila laheri. Inaweza kuwa mzuri sana ni baba wa Kenya. Akiweza extend akuwe baba wa Afrika. Kama Kenya tutajivunia zaidi. Sasa baba kila laheri na ukishinda usinisahau. Asante.
Kwa majina naitwa John Kingori. Eldoret, nataka the best. Nataka apite akuja kusaidia Kenya pia. Asante.
Kwa majina naitwa Paul Tugut, mkaaji hapa Eldoret. Langu mimi namtakia baba awe mshindi kwa sababu itoka faida kwetu kama Kenya na Afrika nzima. Na hiyo tunamtakia baraka. I wish him all the best.
Kwa majina naitwa Morris. Nataka tutakie baba kila laheri, baba kishinda sisi wote tumeshinda. Asante.
Asante sana ndugu yangu. Madam, njoo hapa.
Yes. Okay, my name is Ruth Meruti. We are very happy for Papa. Our Papa is very much good and we wishing him all the best. Hapo ataenda retire nayo and at least asitusumbue. Thank you, very important.
Okay, I'm Cosmas Kosgei. We wish baba the best. Tunamwishia the best.
Naam, mkimalizia dadangu unaitwa nani?
Kwa majina naitwa Meringanga. Namtakia baba all the best. Addis Ababa ni kwa baba.
Asante.
All the best baba. Ni hayo tu.
Yes, Ayub, as you have heard from residents of Eldoret, they are saying they are wishing Raila Amolo Odinga the best as he go to this big day today. And everyone is saying that it is a very important particular position, especially for Raila to have for this seat. We'll also have an opportunity to be in international or in Africa generally. But as we are here, we are watching, and they are here, they are watching also, Ayub, and we will be coming to you to brief you what will be happening in Eldoret. But clearly, as you can see the mood, each and everybody today, you might think that election is happening here in Kenya. That's why many of them, today being on a Saturday, they are very early in the town, just watching, trying to see what will be happening away in Ethiopia. Ayub.
Thank you, John. And by the way, there is a watch party here at the Nairobi Central Business District along the Aga Khan Walk, where there is a watch party, and Kenyans have been gathering to follow the proceedings live from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. And talking about Addis, before I activate our Kisi Bureau, we get hold of Seth Olale, who has been combing through the very same venue, Mandela Hall, where the election will be happening, to tell us more about the preparations and also what has been happening along the diplomatic corridors in Addis. Good morning to you, Seth. What can you tell us? Yesterday, I saw you getting hold of the Principal Secretary, Dr. Korir Singoe, telling you about the SADC position on the Madagascar candidate, Richard Randria Mandrato. What more have you gathered from the diplomatic sources across the corridors, along the corridors of the headquarters of the African Union Commission, as for how things may unfold?
Well, good morning, Ayub Abdikadir, and the letters from the diplomatic corridors, as you mentioned here in Addis Ababa, is in regards to another, spanner in the works, let me call it, by the SADC, because this time down they are calling upon member states now to back up a candidate for the African Development Bank position. And this is a circular that was shared yesterday, again, very, very late. Now, what that means in this particular circular, they're stating, they have not mentioned the name of the candidate, but they're stating that this particular announcement now comes about 36 hours after a similar announcement was made by the Secretary General of the South Africa Development Community, calling upon the 16 member states, encouraging them to vote for the Madagascan candidate, that is Richard Randriamandrato. And so, you know, how SADC is issuing these circulars left, right, and center, you know, it can only be interpreted by them. And this is what the principal secretary in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, that is Dr. Sing'oei, did clarify yesterday. But I just want to show you, our viewers, what's happening where I'm standing. This is the VIP section entrance, but not for the heads of state, but for the ministers, for the ambassadors and high-profile representatives from various international agencies. So at this point where he will make his way all the way to the plenary hall. Now, where does he sit upon arriving at the Nelson Mandela plenary? He will sit just behind the president. But right now, just some dignitaries, VVIPs, I'm being told that Obasanjo, the former Nigerian president, has just arrived, has just landed, and we expect him to, you know, make his way here. We have a lot of eminent personalities when it comes to the diplomatic corps. We have former ambassadors, former heads of states like Olusegun Obasanjo, who's been really on the forefront, you know, in shaping, you know, the reality and the origin of the Kenyan candidates with Raila Amolo Odinga. Remember, the very first time that, you know, that particular announcement was made was after President Obasanjo actually met Raila Amolo Odinga and also met President William Ruto. And so he is also one of the very key figures that, you know, has arrived here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the Heads of State Summit. Apart from the 49 nations participating in the 38th Ordinary Summit of the Heads of States here in Addis Ababa, we also have, like I mentioned earlier, we have observers. We have as well election officials, you know, from various agencies. You know, we also have international organizations. We have humanitarian, you know, humanitarian organizations, representatives, the likes of the World Red Cross, World Red Crescent, all of them part and parcel. So it just tells you that how important and how significant this 38th Ordinary Summit of the African Union Heads of State is. And just to, you know, remind you again, the people you're seeing right now arriving here at this particular VIP entrance should be ministers representing the 49 members of the African Union as it stands. I'm mentioning 49 because we know 6 person and deputy chairperson. So lots of dignitaries now making their way here. And this is where the ministers are coming. And this is where the international observers are coming, plus any other designated VVIP. Now, we also have another entrance right way on my right. And that particular entrance is for only and strictly heads of states and government. And that is where you expect the likes of Kenya's president, Dr. Samuel William Ruto, to make his way into the plenary hall from. You know, that particular place, it's very well guarded. Security has been revamped here in Addis, even both inside and outside the AU headquarters. There is heavy heavy deployment of security agencies. It is a multi intersectorial, operation by the both Ethiopian authorities as well as, outsourced international security officials, just to make sure that things go according to plan. And so the stakes are high here, like I said, and right now we are seeing the Foreign Affairs Minister for Cote d'Ivoire just arriving. Right now, we also saw him participate in the two-day inter-ministerial executive council of the African Union members, and this is a meeting that was held earlier. It usually precedes the Heads of State Summit, and in fact, the resolution that was made by Interministerial Executive Council of the African Union is, what is going to be discussed. It is going to be ratified, and it is going also to be adopted by the heads of state here. So even as we wait for the much anticipated commencement of today's agenda, we are here and we expect more. They're just arriving here, but remember the climax is in just about 30 minutes time, when the official program of the African Union Heads of State Summit program kicks off proper inside the Nelson Mandela Plenary Hall. That's the latest. Ayub Abdukadir.
Thank you, Seth. Much appreciated for the simplicity in which you have broken down the protocol, the arrival, and certainly the presence of Africa's strongmen, among them Obasanjo, who was there and one of the people who held Odinga's hand before he was officially launched by President William Ruto on the 27th of August 2024 at State House in Nairobi. And certainly Seth had pointed out one very pertinent matter, and that includes the observer team that will be here, including one from the European Union. And yesterday, the American Vice President J.D. Vance was in Munich for the Munich Security Conference. He was preceded there. How America considers Europe an ally, a partner. And therefore, whoever wins this contest will be representing Africa at that table as to how he will then be driving the agenda and the course of Africa, whether it's Raila Odinga, Randria Mandrato, or Mahmoud Ali Yusuf from Djibouti. That relevance is what Seth had told us, and the diplomatic core, the blend of it represented there, as you are saying in Addis. Later, we'll be catching up with him when the heads of state will be streaming in to the plenary hall where the voting will be underway. Back home to the county of Kisii, where Crispin Otieno is standing by, and he will be telling us more about what's happening in the county of Kisii. He is in the midst and sandwiched between members of the public in Kisii County. Crispin, good morning. Tell us more about the feeling and the expectations of the members of the public from the county of Kisii.
Well, a very good morning, Ayub, from our communication center in Nairobi. Here in Kisii, just like the mood in the entire country, residents are pensively waiting to see what will be happening at Ethiopia's headquarters in Addis Ababa, where AUC election will be going down starting from today afternoon. And that's why residents from Kisii County have sandwiched me here. I just want to engage them. We've seen what has been happening. The country's diplomatic team has been crisscrossing the entire continent just to woo other countries to offer support for the Kenyan candidate Raila Odinga. What do you have to say as a resident of Kisii County?
Mimi ninasema majina naitwa Paul Mageto. Tunaombea mzee wetu. Sisi tunasema msherekee, kazi yenu ni kuimba na kusherekea.
Thank you so much. Unaitwa nani? Majina yako? Alafu tuelezee tu maoni yako kuhusiana na uchaguzi wa.
I'm just for Seko. What I'm going to say, our Honorable Raila Odinga amekuwa akisaidia sana kupigania uhuru wetu, amekuwa akisaidia sana freedom yetu, na vile tunajua mzee wetu Matiang'i anauliza kiti, kwa hivyo tunasema
the exclusive footage that we have gotten hold of courtesy of our team. And this is the same vehicle that the president and the former prime minister were sharing. and directly heading to the headquarters of the African Union, where they will be getting to the plenary hall, where the voting will be underway alongside the other activities of the day for the heads of state and governments from the African Union. The president was also in the company of the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and other government officials. This is from our team exclusive footage, President William Ruto's arrival, and that of course, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He's still waiting for the man who he had campaigned for, and there goes the former Prime Minister, walking behind the president. They are into the auditorium where the activities of the day will be, and that is where the activities will be happening. This is an exclusive footage from our team in Addis. Again, the arrival of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in the company of President William Ruto, his chief campaigner and the head of the diplomatic team in Addis, and has been the tradition since he officially launched him on the 27th of August 2024, taking him to different countries, including in the north, and a meeting between the former Prime Minister and Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, as well as Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, also in the central, eastern, and the western part of the continent. And that, of course, official launch here in Nairobi on the 27th of August last year brought together the heads of state and governments from the East African region who pledged and threw their weight behind the former Prime Minister as the sole representative of the Eastern African region for the top position of the African Union. The East will be producing the chairperson, the North the deputy chairperson, and the 6 commissioners will be shared 2 each amongst central, western, and southern part of the African continent. This is the 2018 resolution that was reached for fair representation of the regions in the African part, the continent, different parts of the continents. Back home into Mombasa County, and Francis Mtalaki is standing by in the county of Mombasa. Good morning, Francis. What can you tell us from County 001 as to the mood and how the environment is building up in Mombasa County?
Well, a very good morning. You make some mixed reactions from residents of Mombasa with regard to what is happening in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. But here I'm standing with a number of residents of Mombasa who want to engage them with this conversation with regard to the moment of truth for Raila Amolo Odinga and Kenya as a whole. Labda utueleze jina lako alafu tuambie hii leo ni siku muhimu sana hasa kwa taifa hili na kuhusiana na masuala ya AUC, na pia maoni yako labda kuhusiana na wadhifa huu. Unatarajia nini kama Mkenya wa kawaida?
Kwa majina naitwa Sultana. Mwanzo kabisa wacha nianze kuwaambia Wakenya kwamba watulie. Hizo mambo tunaona mtandaoni, kwanza watulie. Cha pili ni kwamba ni vizuri hata tukiunga mtu mkono kama Wakenya. Tunajua kura ni moja na ni ya rais. Lakini pia sisi kama Wakenya tumeweza kutathmini kabisa zile policies ama zile maono ya kiongozi wetu. Na kama kijana kuna jambo moja sana nimependa sana. Amekuwa akizungumzia hii mambo ya kuwa na passport moja ya African Union. Hiyo itanisaidia kama kijana, itaisaidia vijana wengine pia. Manake huwa wanasema sisi kama Afrika hatufanyi biashara kivyetu sisi kama nchi za Kiafrika, bali biashara zetu tunatoa nje. So katika ile harakati ya kufanya biashara miongoni mwetu kama Waafrika, itaweza kufanya vijana wapate ajira, na itaweza kufanya tupate ile tunaita rasilimali za kutosha. Cha pili, ukiangalia Raila kuwa pale itasaidia Kenya kwa sababu itaweka Kenya kwenye ramani ya ulimwengu. Na kama sisi vijana ambao tunasafiri ama tuko na nia ya kusafiri, unapata kila wakati utakapokuwa unajitambulisha kama Mkenya, watu washajua Kenya ni nchi gani, iko wapi, so haitakuwa jambo geni kwao. Na vile vile ningependa kuomba sana, tafadhali, ni vizuri kuwa patriotic. Hii mambo yenye watu wanaongelea nini, huyu ni kiongozi wetu. Na kabla akuwe hata kiongozi ni Mkenya mwenzetu. Jinsi tunavyosherekea wale maathletes, wale wakimbiaji ama Wakenya wanapofanya vizuri pale nje, ndio pia ni vizuri tumsherekee yeye. Akipata ama akikosa kupata, bado yeye ni kiongozi wetu na bado yeye ni Mkenya wetu, mmoja wetu. So tukue na ile patriotism. Tujue kila wakati sisi ukiona Mkenya yuko mahali unamuunga mkono.
Na pili, umeridhishwa na idadi ya viongozi ambao wamejaa Addis?
Kidogo nimeridhishwa, lakini pia
kidogo nilikuwa na wasiwasi, manake wajua hatujapata, na kuna wale marais ama kuna wale viongozi watakaopiga kura wakiona zile mbwembwe na venye watu wanashangilia nini pale kabla ya kura, pia inaweza fanya mtu abadilishe fikra yake.
Asante. Maoni yako kwa kifupi sana, majina?
Kwa majina naitwa Julius Ogogo. Mimi ni Mkenya na Mkenya halisi. Mimi kama Mkenya halisi, sisi tunamwombea rais na tulimwombea Raila ili apate hii kinyanyira ambao sahi ako, lakini Raila mwenyewe ni mtu ambao ni mtu wa demokrasia, ni Mkenya ambao asapigania nchi. Raila sio mgeni kwa mambo ya Afrika, ni mtu ambaye asapigania, lakini kitu ambayo yani tunakosea ni ile umati ya watu wa bunge ambao walimfuatilia, walifuata Raila huko Addis Ababa. Haikuwa a political contest. Hii ilikuwa ni kuwa Raila alikuwa tayari afanye nini, apate ili tayari awe kama chawa AAU, lakini sio mahali pa kuwa tayari watakimbia huku na huku ati watu wanatoka umati ya watu. Sana sana mimi nimekosea magovernors ambao nimeona pale. Unaona counties wote tayari hawana nini, hawana pesa nini, yote ilikuwa natakana wakae hapa chini wafanye kazi yao.
Asante sana. Naam, kutoka kaunti ya Mombasa basi tunayafululiza hadi mji wa Addis Ethiopia, tuweze kuzungumza naye Seth Olale ambaye yuko mjini Addis Ababa Ethiopia. Kutoka kwangu basi nakupeleka Seth Olale akiwa nchini Ethiopia.
Well, live pictures here from the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. This is the VVIP section of the entrance to the Nelson Mandela Plenary Hall that will host the Heads of State Summit. We are seeing more and more ministers and high representatives of the African Union arrive here just moments ago. Before you crossed over to Addis from Mombasa, we saw the Minister for Environment, that is Vale, his way here through this particular very entrance of the African Union. It is only it is a designated area just for the ministers and also representatives of the heads of states and governments that will not be making their way.
The live pictures coming to you from the VVIP section in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where the arrivals of the heads of now ongoing, and this of course includes the presidents from the different parts of the continent there, safeguarded by the security agencies in Ethiopia. This is the African Union headquarters precincts, where it's now all action underway, where the arrivals, as you had seen, of different heads of states and government is now on, including that of President William Ruto, who arrived with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And there we go, is now the Nigerian delegation headed by President Tinubu, who are now arriving. Shortly we'll be having those live pictures, but what you can see on your screens at the moment that of President William Ruto and the former Prime Minister who had arrived at the headquarters of the African Union, where we had seen the head of state also in the company of the former Prime Minister walking into the plenary hall, where they will be taking part in the other activities of the day. And this is the exclusive footage of our team there in Addis, where that will be underway, and with the culmination of the elections that will see the election of the African Union chairperson and the deputy chairperson, that will be, of course, decided by the Assembly of the Heads of State and the 6 commissioners, of course, appointment that will be confirmed by the plenary, given the developments that will be happening and the agenda of the day, which will see the African continent by evening have a new chairperson who will be taking over from Musa Faki Mahamat, whose tenure has expired after coming to the office first in 2017 when he defeated Ambassador Amina Mohammed and those are the candidates who had contested for the position, including, of course, Abdoulaye Bathily from Senegal, and the second term that he secured in 2021. Let's now listen in to my colleague Seth Olale, who is witnessing the arrival of the heads of state.
African Union that actually came up with various recommendations during its sessions, and it's part and parcel of the agenda today, because the heads of states here in this summit will adopt or reject some of the recommendations that have been made. One key recommendation that was made by the intersectorial, interministerial executive council was, to discuss the issues regarding Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the escalation, the humanitarian crisis, and they are calling for an immediate ceasefire. And not only that, they also want peacekeepers in that particular country to be added and revamped in order to prevent, further loss of lives and property. Live pictures here just outside the 2 meters apart, away from the Nelson Mandela plenary where the summit will happen. What you're seeing here is the arrival of various ministers and appointees, high-level representatives for various countries of that part and parcel of the 49 member nations that are taking place, that are participating in today's program. And just briefly, let me just take you through what we expect to happen today. The agenda that was earlier passed on by the Council. Remember that the Council is the Secretariat of the African Union. And according to the program that I have right now, is that we're going to have an opening ceremony that will kick off with the, singing of the African Union anthem. Thereby, after we're to have statements from various speakers of this particular summit. And then after that, we're going to have announcements, announcement of the Bureau of the African Union Assembly for the year 2025. And later on, of course, we also expect to have the closed session to start. Well, like I mentioned earlier, remember that it is not just the heads of states who will be part and parcel of that particular 38th ordinary session of the heads of state here. We also have international observers, many of them from global institutions or organizations. You have the United Nations, you also have the European Union, you have the likes of the international humanitarian agencies, the International Red Cross, the International Red Crescent, all of them, but just part and parcel of today's summit here. Just makes a sense of, this is really, really, really high stakes, high level deliberations. So even as the ministers arrive from this particular entrance, we also have another VVVIP area that is only exclusive for the heads of state, the presidents who are arriving here, including Kenya's President William Samoei Ruto, who already made his way accompanied, driving in the same presidential motorcade and vehicle with Kenya's candidate Raila Amolo Odinga. They arrived here about 25 minutes ago, and they were ushered into a holding area before they make their way to the Nelson Mandela plenary. So quite, colorful and interesting pictures here, because, Africa is all about origin and culture. And so you have the heads of states driving here in style. And, this is just the beauty of the Africa continent. It is a show, of origin. It is a celebration of culture as well. And so they are arriving here, the delegates are arriving here in all their preferred outfits, I should say, all regarded official, by the way, for this today's heads of state summit. And so even as they arrive, the big agenda, of course, will be the AGM, the annual general meeting, which is part and parcel of the 38th ordinary session of the Africa Union. And so, you're very careful. This is Canon Media. And, we are seeing live pictures of you, very cultural outfit as well. How do you feel about, appearing, dressing this way?
Unfortunately, I'm not supposed to be on air. I'm not supposed to. I'm on duty. Okay. Yes. But we appreciate the presence of African Union. Okay. And brings across all the African leaders.
How important is the 38th session to you?
But I have to go. Thank you.
Okay, just one part and parcel of the protocols here at the Africa Union, yes, like I mentioned earlier, they are arriving in style, of course, and this is what makes Africa unique. Culture, origin, displaying itself here at the summit. But if you can just go back to the program, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have the AU anthem. We're going to have statements or announcements on moderation, how this summit will be conducted. And then we're going to have the announcement of the Bureau of the Africa Union Assembly for the year 2025. We're going to have the launch of the Africa Union theme of the year 2025. After that, all the delegates and the heads of state inside that particular Nelson Mandela plenary will walk out for a photo session that will take only 5 minutes. Then after that, the media will be requested to come out, and not only the media, other representatives of various governments will also be told to come out. Only observers and high dignitaries will be left inside because it will be a closed session. Now, what will happen in this particular closed session of today's ordinary session of the AU, we will have the adoption of the agenda and organization of work. What will precede will be the adoption of the agenda, and then they're going to discuss how the organization of work is going to be. Next will be the elections and appointment of members of various AU organs. We're going to have presentation of vision statements and proposed priorities for candidates for the election of the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission. And this is now where the likes of Kenya's Raila Amolo Odinga, Djibouti's Mohamed Yusuf Ali, and Madagascar's Richard Randriamandrato will be called in to enter the plenary from the holding area, because this is where they are now being called upon to be part and parcel of the election process. Remember that they are their own agents and they have the mandate of just sitting back and to witness if the modality is being followed as far as the election of the Africa Union Commission chairperson and deputy chairperson is concerned. What you're seeing is more and more ministers, most of them foreign affairs ministers from all the 49 member states of the Africa Union that will take part in the 38th ordinary session of the AU. So let's go back to this agenda. We were talking about the election. So after the election, we are going to have also the election and appointment of the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission. Like I mentioned, they will be called, all the three of them, inside the plenary. Next, we're going to have the election and appointment of the deputy chairperson of the Africa Union Commission. Remember, according to a diplomatic practice that is usually followed here at the Africa Union, we are going to have a deputy from the northern side, that is the Maghreb region of the continent. Then after that particular session of election, down to business again, the winners are going to be announced immediately. And why? Because they're supposed to now be part and parcel of the next step of the program, which will be the strategic reports presentation. They will talk about the peace and security, and this is now where things will start becoming dicey, because the issues regarding the Democratic Republic of Congo, issues regarding the Sudan, and of course what happened, the wave of coup d'etat that was witnessed in the past years, and especially.
And that was Seth Olale, who was giving us a breakdown of what will be happening at this plenary hall, where the events of the day will be underway in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. And this is also the place where the voting will be taking place as to who between Kenya's Raila Odinga, Madagascar's Richard Randiamandrato, and Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali will be the next chairperson of the African Union Commission, and also their deputy, whoever that will be, of course, considering the gender representation that was introduced following the 2018 resolution by the African Union. And that, of course, regards the representation aspect of it and the rotational policy, which was as well introduced at the time in 2018. You're watching this special broadcast that, of course, focuses on what will be happening later in the day from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where it is the moment of truth and Raila Odinga's big day in Addis. Previously, we had seen his arrival at the headquarters in the company of the president after they had breakfast. And this is still pictures live from the Ethiopian capital, Addis, by our team, exclusively giving you the live coverage of the arrivals of the heads of states and governments with regards to, of course, what will be happening in the course of the day. Back in studio, my team of analysts are still with me here to give us an account of what will be happening and what will be looking into some of the factors for consideration and the last-minute diplomatic maneuvers by the Kenyan team in the capital, in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. On my immediate right is Professor Maxwell Miawa, constitutional law scholar and an advocate of the High Court. Much appreciated and good morning. Thanks. Your presence is highly appreciated. Ahmed Hashi is also a governance commentator, also diplomatic commentator, joins us this morning here on the broadcast. Good morning.
Ayub, it's glad to be here again.
Glad to have you as well. We are also joined by Gordon Kachola, who is foreign policy commentator. Gentlemen, your time is all appreciated. And we had an hour plus coverage of what will be activity-filled day from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. First, beginning with you, Gordon, what's your take of all that is happening? Has enough been done? And what does that picture of the president in the company of the former prime minister arriving at the AU headquarters project of the man who he has thrown his weight behind to support his cause for the continental job?
Thank you, Ayub. When I look at those pictures, one thing is clear. I see a committed man, intentional, and somebody who is all out to get this back home to Kenya. It's encouraging to see what President Ruto is doing so far, unlike what happened in the last contest that Kenya represented someone, or Kenya took in someone to compete for that position. This time around, we've seen a lot of energy, a lot of commitment to bring that seat back home. Yeah.
Ahmed, what do you make of the discussions we had here today, the D-Day, and you can see how Addis is expecting the outcome as to who then takes over from Musa Faki Mahamat?
Probably this is the most important political situation in Africa today, because the idea of bringing this continent together is gaining steam across the continent, because we're now clearly about to understand that nation states in this continent need to have their crises solved, and it cannot be solved internally. The old idea of non-interference in the internal affairs of another country in Africa is dead, because you can see what's going on today in the DRC, where the troops from this rebel movement are about to capture Bukavu. And I put it to you, Ayub, that is going to cause immediate reaction in the African Union today, because the entire issue of the Great Lakes is an emergency, and I'm sure it's going to have a profound impact on the elections that are coming today. As a Kenyan, of course, we all wish our candidates the best. I mean, it would be very unfair for me as a citizen of this country and as a senior citizen not to wish the former Prime Minister the best of luck. But as you know, in my view, I think that this region, a lot of places in this Africa are very anti-Kenyan. They feel that Kenya is a very strong state, and giving them power in the AU is going to push the agenda of Kenya even more so. So my views remain the same from last time.
Which is?
Which is, I believe the Prime Minister is going to lose this election.
But you nonetheless wish him the best.
But I nonetheless wish him the best. But I believe that the obstacles are so huge that it's, someone said that I think you're the bravest man I've met. And I said, why? He said, because you just speak your mind. I said, no, it's not about speaking my mind. This is about telling the people of Kenya, this alternative universe is there. There's another alternative universe. They can get an informed idea. We're a maturing democracy. We should be able to make some room for different views about what's going on.
Okay. Prof, what's your take?
Of course, I take a very strong divergence, divergent views from my colleague.
Of course.
Who, of course, today I realize we went to the same university.
By the way, he's my junior from the same university. So I think you should accord me a little bit of respect.
Thank you so much. I think the divergence comes in this way. For the first time, we see the exportation of the Kenyan brand of politics into the continent. I think one thing for certain that this speaks to, but I think it's largely because of the nature, the character, the charisma of who Raila Odinga is, together with the charisma of William Ruto. We are seeing for the first time the politicization of the African continental diplomacy. This is something that is highly unprecedented. I mean, we saw elections before. We have had at least 4 AU chairs, but we did not see as much fireworks.
That's true.
As much vibrance, as much vigor and rigor into the election campaign. This tells you that Kenya has got something new, something great to offer. The Africanization the Africanization of the politics of diplomacy that has been brought by two prominent Kenyan individuals, Raila Odinga on the one hand and William Ruto on the other hand, is perhaps going to give us something new. Whether Raila Odinga wins this or he doesn't win it, the African brand of diplomacy from today, particularly at the top level of AUC leadership, has changed and will be changed for quite a great long time, thanks to William Ruto and Raila Odinga.
And Gordon, when you look at the individuals who have been leading Odinga's campaigns, either directly or indirectly, Obasanjo, President William Ruto, and the Secretariat, you have seen even the last-minute campaign following up on President Evariste Ndayishimiye up to the north, out of the capital, Bujumbura, in Burundi, just to make sure everything is intact and in the right place. What does this tell us, or what does it project of these campaigns by weights that you can never rule them out when it comes to politics and diplomacy?
Well, there are two things in this campaign. One is the political aspect of it, which Professor Miao has talked about. Then there is the diplomatic aspect of it. And one thing that is clear, President Ruto had this in mind while he was crafting the Secretariat. He crafted a Secretariat that is highly diplomatic, that is scathingly neat as far as diplomacy of Africa is concerned. Look at, for example, the Secretary General of IGAD leading the team. It clearly shows you the weight with which President Ruto took this as far as diplomacy is concerned. All the diplomatic rigors is taken care of. Then there is the political aspect of it. The political aspect of it, the president has sorted out, because he did not leave this to the Secretariat alone. He ensured that he went out of his way, even up to last minute, like yesterday in the evening. He was still meeting heads of states and governments across Africa to pursue this agenda to the last course. Why is he doing this? He's learned from the mistakes, Kenya's mistakes in 2017. Ambassador Kamau, the former PS for Foreign Affairs, did confirm this, that we did our best, but last minute slumber cost us the job. This time round, the president is not taking this to chances. He's ensuring that even if the result doesn't come out as we expect, but Kenya shall have done its best in this. I agree with Professor Miawa that the diplomacy in its practice will change drastically beginning today. And I think the pace that has been set by Kenya will have to only continue depending on the personality of any other candidate that shall come.
Okay. Yes. And Ahmed, have we learned the pitfalls from the 2017 loss of Ambassador Amina Mohammed leading to the birth of Musa Faki Mahamat?
I don't think we have, because I was there at the Foreign Office at that time, and without saying very much, I was of the view that there was going to be betrayal by Djibouti, for an example. The same Djibouti we're competing against. I was listened to, but the point was thought to be inconsequential. But it turned out to be very consequential, because even Uganda left us. You know, the problem of the voting system, I'll try and explain the viewers to understand. You see, the candidates needs 2/3 majority.
Which in this case is 33.
Which is 33 states. So the problem is you keep going from one round to the other. Because right now the race, in my view, is tight. I think Odinga is just down by maybe 11 to 10 states, in my view. And I can explain that later if you wish. But right now, this process of going from one round to the other, it creates deal-making for positions inside the system. So if they smell blood, if a regional states or regional grouping smell blood and they think that someone is not going to make it, immediately, even though they made a gentleman's handshake with you, they can switch immediately because of their state interests, which is a factor in the election of the AU chairman. I think where we went wrong is from the very beginning, from the philosophical point of view. The permanent secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Korir, an astute, competent permanent secretary, no question about that, just disagree with him about the issue, is that his philosophy was that there are certain inalienable state interests that guide the election to the AU. Now, you see, that, if that were true, then there would not be an Islamic council, which is made up of 30 states. And about 28 of them have already committed to the candidate from Djibouti. If there was no other cultural issues, for an example, the problem of South Africa and Donald Trump, which I've explained before, the Americans are not happy with some states that may support Odinga, particularly because South Africa and Donald Trump have a diplomatic tiff, as you know, in the last week. Today, as we speak, the troops of Rwanda supported, let me say, Rwanda has denied that it supports the M23 troops. They are going to Bukavu. The first battalions have entered Bukavu last night. That's a huge game changer. The question is, will they stop or will they go to Kinshasa? And you know, Bukavu, it's right next to Burundi. There is a chance that there's going to be conflict in the next 48 hours if those people don't stop and go back to where they started, because Burundi will try and defend its borders. So I think that the DRC, the Gulf of Guinea states, and all those states that are there will be talking about sanctioning Rwanda there in the AU, and Kagame is gone there. This will have an impact on the vote, because Kenya will be asked, what is your, and Kenya is a major player in the DRC's conflict resolution process, as you know, and as my learned colleagues on the left and right know. So I think that that's an unfortunate thing that has happened there in the DRC. that the effects on the election is going to be felt before we are done with this interview.
All right, Prof, I'll come to you, but first let me engage Enoch Muswe, who is joining us from the county of Machakos as part of the series of lives across the counties to monitor the situation across the continent Masai. That is, then it's in the county of Kajiado, to give us a feel and the expectations of the public. What can you tell us, Masai, and having talked with the people and the expectations for the day ahead of the elections?
Kifuatilie tangu shughuli hizi zilipoanza kama siku 3 zilizopita, wakati Wakenya waliweza kumiminika katika jiji la Addis Ababa kuweza kufuatilia shughuli hii nzima ambayo itakuwa inatamatika hii leo. Na ninao hapo wananchi ambao tayari wako hapa kuweza kutoa maoni yao kuhusiana na labda matarajio yao kwa siku hii na masuala kama yale. Nitaanza hapa hivi. Naona maoni ni mengi kweli kweli, lakini nitaanza na huyu kaka hapa hivi. Tueleze tu labda leo ni siku kubwa sana ikizingatiwa kwamba Mkenya mmoja ambaye ni Raila Odinga anagombea kiti cha EAC.
Okay, mimi ni majina ni Ole Taiko kutoka Kajiado, na tuko sisi ni wakaji wa Kajiado, na sisi obvious
Sound Candy Talk Live News.
Africa Union headquarters from, and it is now all system go, because the arrival of the 35 presidents, 8 prime ministers, and 6 high representatives from the various nations that have been appointed from. This one now signals the formal start of today's proceedings at the Nelson Mandela plenary, effective 10:30 a.m. And like I mentioned earlier before, the president of the Republic of Kenya, that is Dr. Samuel Ruto, drove drove in the same vehicle with Kenya's candidate Raila Amolo Odinga, even as they made their way at the VVIP entrance. And thereafter, both of them were ushered into a holding area. That has been the practice, but it was I wouldn't say opposite, but it was a very different reception from what you've seen from the likes of Djibouti candidate in the AUC chairperson, that is Mohamed Yusuf Ali, who arrived at the other VIP section designated for ministers and high representatives of heads of government. So quite low-key, but also very, very much significant. This is just part and parcel of protocol. Nothing to read much from there. How the candidates for various positions here arrive here at the Africa Union headquarters really doesn't matter. It is just a diplomatic procedure for how you choose to arrive. And President William Ruto and the Kenyan candidate Raila Odinga just chose to drive in the same car and to arrive together. Unlike the Djibouti candidate who we saw entering through an alternative entrance that designated for ministers. And it serves right, because the Djibouti candidate for the Africa Union Commission chairperson is also the Foreign Affairs Minister for Djibouti, and he was here actually way early for the 2-day Interministerial Executive Council of the Africa Union, which came up with various recommendations, and it is on the basis of their report that the heads of state here during this 38th Ordinary Summit are going to deliberate to either adopt or drop some of the recommendations made by the Interministerial Council of the Africa Union. So a very, very, very busy morning here at the Africa Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. Like I said, security has been beefed up. We've seen roads, some roads, some access roads to this particular building, have been closed. We've seen roads barricaded. We've seen traffic diverted. It's a very, very momentous, moment for Ethiopia itself, and especially when the Africa Union hosts the Heads of State Summit. Our business almost comes to a standstill, and especially in Addis Ababa's central business district. You can imagine assembling a total of 35 presidents and 8 prime ministers and 6 other representatives. And apart from those particular heads of states, you also have very high profile representations from the international organizations, the United Nations, for example, which is part and parcel of today's summit, the European Union, the likes of humanitarian agencies, global agencies such as the Red Cross and the Red Crescent, all of them part and parcel of today's, very, very key agenda here in this particular capital, Addis of Ethiopia. And so right now, any moment from now, viewers, we expect the official anthem for the AU to be presided over by the military by the Ethiopian forces, and thereafter we will have brief comments from speakers just to bring the meeting to order. But thereafter, there will now be the unveiling of the reports, and one of the reports will be the minutes and held the 37th summit last year here in Addis Ababa. And then thereafter, there will also be adoption of reports from the Interministerial Executive Council of the AU that was attended by various up to close to 49 foreign affairs ministers. We saw the Prime Cabinet Secretary and also the Foreign Affairs Minister for Kenya being part and parcel of those particular talks that, among others, discuss issues to do with how the election will be held, the election of the African Union Commission Chair and the Deputy. We also saw the 6 commissioners of this particular secretariat of the AU also elected. We saw other representatives of the AU organs being elected, from by the various ministers. So it is upon that report that the heads of state here are going to adopt some of the discussions there. But also remember that the Interministerial Executive Council of the AU did discuss issues to do with peace and stability in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the Sudan, and in other countries that experience a wave of coup d'etat in the recent years, both in Central Africa region and West Africa in particular. So this also the issues about immigrants, crossing over the Mediterranean to the Mediterranean Sea all the way to Europe. These were also just part, and parcel of the discussions here during the 2-day Interministerial Executive Council of the African Union. And so what you are being told is that the program actually has formally started, and we're going to go back and discuss this.
There is Seth Olale giving us an account of the arrivals of the heads of state and governments arriving at the headquarters of the African Union, streaming in. Among the countries that we had managed to spot out include Nigeria, Algeria, Angola, and of course representatives from the diplomatic corps in Ethiopia with regards to the United Arab Emirates, the European Union, and other countries that are taking keen interest in the election that will be happening of the African Union Commission chairperson and the deputy chairperson. That will be done by the Assembly of the Heads of State at the plenary, where that will be underway, and will be keeping an eye when that proceedings will be underway from Addis in Ethiopia, and our team standing by to give us an assessment of what the outcome will be when the voting will be done by the heads of state. Amongst the other issues, of course, that they will be tabling this morning, part of the agenda will be how to resolve the crisis in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that is spiraling out of control following the SADC meeting and the East African Community, which brought together the heads of state from the countries in the south and in the east that were co-chaired by President William Ruto, Kenya, and his Zimbabwean counterpart Emerson Mnangagwa, as to how to resolve the conflict and bring together the warring parties in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, as pointed out by my panelists here. Prof, before I come to you, allow me to get hold of Enoch Musui, who is standing by in the county of Machakos, to give us also an account of what's happening in the county of Machakos. Enoch, good morning to you. And what's the feeling and how is the environment building up in Machakos County?
And we are in Tala in Machakos County, ambapo tuko tayari kuongea na wananchi kuhusu Raila kuwa kiongozi wa AU. Wacha tusikie maoni ya watu wa Tala wanayapi kwa leo. Karibu, nianze na majina.
Asante. Majina yangu naitwa William Sila Mutiso kutoka huku Tala. Leo ni siku ya historia sana, kwa sababu ni ile siku ambayo baba Raila Amolo Odinga anaomba wenyekiti wa Jumuiya ya Afrika. Tunamtakia mema, kwa sababu Raila ni mtu ambaye amekomaa kisiasa. Hata ukiangalia umri wake, ukiangalia ile mambo amefanya kwa hii nchi yetu, kwa Afrika yote mzima, ni mambo mzuri. Wakamba wanasemanga kwamba mtu akifika kwa hiyo age anaitwa mtumea. Inamaanisha kwamba huyo mtumea amekata mmea, not the mmea. Kwa hivyo tunamtakia mema, tunataka mambo huko yaendelee mzuri. Tunangojea tusikie kwamba yeye ndiye atakuwa chairman. Na tuseme hivi, Kalonzo sasa wewe ndio umeachwa kama opposition leader. Tunataka usimame gangari kama ukuta wa Silanga, ututetee watu wote, kwa sababu tunakuhitaji uwe katika opposition.
Of course, Blue Band is amazing on toast. Duh. But did you know there's more? Blue Band can do your topping and your frying and stir frying and mixing. Blue Band for stewing, baking sauces, also grilling and toasting. Nice in matoke and ugali and tilapia. That's right, for breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Chairmanship, because as a patriotic Kenyans, a win for Raila is a win for Kenya. And in the event that the unfortunate happens, that he loses, then I would request him to retire from politics actively. Thank you.
Anza kwa majina alafu tuelezee hisia zako.
Majina naitwa Gregory Kitonga kutoka hapa Machakos County, na sisi kama vijana wa Ukambani tunatakia Raila kila laheri katika uongozi wa AU. Mambo ikisindikana tutamkaribisha Kenya tena, lakini tutaomba aritaya katika siasa na support. Sisi tukiongozwa na viongozi wetu wa Ukambani tunasema Raila all the best in AU. Thank you.
Naam, Ayub Abdikadir, hao ni wananchi kutoka eneo la Tala ambayo iko eneo bunge la Matungulu na Kangundo. Kwa sasa wacha turudi studio tusikie muna yapi. Kutoka kaunti ya Machakos nikiripotia runinga ya Citizen, mimi ni Enoch Musui.
That is Enoch Musui from Tala in the county of Machakos, also giving us an account of what the public had to say. So we have the pictures coming to you live from the plenary hall where the voting will be underway, and the different diplomatic designates where the delegates will be seated and who will be led by the respective presidents. And this will be the head of state where President William Ruto will be sitting, the Kenyan flag right there. Also neighboring him other countries including Cameroon, Nigeria, Mali, Cameroon and Nigeria in that regard. The opening statement that regard will be giving you the breakdown of what will be transpiring there at the plenary hall where that will be underway, and the relevance of the activity of the day. And that includes, of course, to just give you that breakdown in terms of the timings as well. Today, the 15th of February 2025. The opening session will be of the 38th ordinary session of the African Union. That will be happening any minute from now, and then from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. will be the closed session of the African Union. And you can see there the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, and who as well is the CS for Foreign Affairs, and his Principal Secretary Dr. Abraham Korir Sing'oei in their last-minute engagement with parts of the other representatives of the different countries at the plenary hall where they will be sitting in their designated area. And that includes, of course, the seat that is preserved for the team lead, who is President William Ruto. And this is part of the last minute, of course, reaching out to of representatives of countries. This is where the heads of state will be seated, and the lean diplomatic team from different parts of the continent, perhaps to do something in the last minute in engaging the leaders of the heads of state and governments, where they will be, of course, doing what they could in that regard to campaign for their candidates and the respective places, the designated areas for as well the media team in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, who are all following the session with close attention. And to just continue with the breaking down of what the program and how it will look like is from between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. is going to be the closed session of the African Union Assembly, where the heads of state and their teams will be presiding over the same. And then thereafter from 2 p.m., that is at the multipurpose hall, between 12 p.m. and 1:15 p.m., the same time will be Sustainable Peace Financing for African Innovation, a partnership for the AU Peace Fund. And from 1 p.m. then will be the briefing session for the AU Committee of 10, and you can see the proceedings live from the headquarters, where the plenary session at the moment is a beehive of activity, and you can see the movements made around by the different teams from different countries in an attempt to last minute reach out to the different representatives from the different parts of the continent. And this is going to be a long day that, according to the schedule, is set to end today at 10 p.m., where a dinner of reception will be hosted by the Republic of Kenya, and will be giving you that live coverage from the Sheraton Hotel in in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Also part of the team at the plenary is the diplomatic team. This is the representatives from the United Arab Emirates, as you can see, also present at the plenary to just follow the proceedings. That includes, of course, also the other representatives, including the European Union, where the American Vice President J.D. Vance was there yesterday to attend the Munich Security Conference. Also in his company was the America's Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Back home and to the county of Homa Bay to get hold of Latano to give us also an assessment of what the people are saying there. And Latano, good morning to you. And what can you tell us from the county of Homa Bay this morning?
Abdul Kabdir from Homa Bay County. The whole reflection today is reflecting back to the 27th of December when the Honorable Raila Odinga was last a visitor to the Homa Bay people. And Raila Odinga has always referred to Homa Bay County as the heartbeat of his politics in Nyanza. And thus makes everyone in Homa Bay to be keen about the results that are going to come out today. On the 27th of December last year, they were here both with the president attending a football tournament. That was the time they were seen together. And the people of Homa Bay, as we were talking in the sidelines, they were happy this morning again to see both the president and the former prime minister together. That has really given them what to talk about today. And I'm here with the guys who are following this very closely. What do you have to talk about today, Justin there?
My name is Festus Okoto Siba. I'm a resident of Homa Bay Town. Okay, first and foremost, I'm very happy with our president because our president has done it. He has tried his best to ensure that Baba Raila Amolo Odinga is at AU right now, and he did his best by doing all the campaign all over. Two, whatever we can say now, we are only on our knees to see that Raila Amolo Odinga to be confirmed as the AUC chair. We can only request all Kenyans to join us in prayers to change the mind of a voter in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, so that Baba can get this thing. As you know, all Kenyans, that Raila Amolo Odinga is a vision leader who can take us somewhere. We request that all the possibilities that are there, if Baba wins the AUC chair, as you all confirm from the manifesto of Baba, you see that Baba has a vision for Kenya, both the African continents. So we only urge members that if we get this chance to be Baba as the AUC chair, we are very happy that we are going to get the biggest portion and the biggest thing. You all see that in the Baba's manifesto, Baba confirmed to us that agriculture is in his heart. And you see from the look of things, the way Baba normally do things. We expect the positive results from Baba. And you all know, when Baba will take it, it is only us Kenyans who produce the candidates. We'll benefit more compared to other people who has not produced candidates. So we only urge the members, we have the solidarity with Baba. We pray for Baba right now, for Baba to get this AUC chair. And I, as a resident of Homa Bay, I hereby confirm that Baba to be pronounced as the AUC chair.
Thank you so much. As we are still following up on the proceedings of today, we'll keep on updating you on the reactions from people from Homa Bay County. From this Lakeside County, I'm James Latano. Back to you, Ayub.
James, thanks and good morning to you from the county of Nairobi. Many thanks. That's James Latano from the county of Homa Bay giving us also the responses by the members of the public. And Prof, coming to you before we engage our Addis team again. If there's something to draw out of the 2017 fall of Ambassador Amina Mohamed, what is it that then Kenya might have learned? I mean, Musa Faki Mahamat, the outgoing chairperson, was at the time not expected because the attention was on Ambassador Amina Mohamed and Abdullahi Bathily from Senegal. I mean, does it tell us about what could be a second round and then final third round regarding how the outcome is so intricate as to what will be happening in that plenary session that we had seen?
I think in 2017, I think there was a little bit of oversight, perhaps on the part of the Kenyan delegation, the Kenyan foreign and diplomatic missions, perhaps who are handling that initiative. This time round, I think there's a recognition also on the part of the Kenyan government, particularly the Foreign Affairs Ministry, that recognizes that perhaps African politics has changed. And it needs to be changed far much more fundamentally. perhaps with an individual with a bigger than life image. The reason perhaps why we were not successful in the last campaign is that, first of all, it was a last minute campaign. Because remember, this one has been a long journey. It's been a marathon campaign for the last almost one year. But you can see the vibrance with which Raila Odinga himself has brought into the campaign. I think that has altered the landscape. You can see the boldness, you know. You can see the international outreach that Raila has taken to this campaign. The personal initiatives, I think that time it was a state project, but in this time round, it's a state individual project, so that Raila did not and has not slept on his laurels merely because the state is behind him. I think the reason also why things are far much different, I do understand that Ambassador Amina Mohammed was a diplomat for quite a number of years. But I think Raila Odinga does far much better in terms of his solid international network, solid international image. Remember, this is somebody who has been a prime minister of a republic of a country. This is a person who has negotiated peace in various regions of Africa. This is somebody who has a personal friendship with quite a number of heads of states. So the reason why the landscape has been altered this time round is because largely of the individual initiative, one of Raila Amolo Odinga, knowing his political character. No, he's naturally a political animal, other than being a diplomat or a former head of state. And also the energy, you know, the enthusiasm with which the state or the Republic of Kenya has taken into this. So I think there's a great deal of difference from what the input that the state injected that time. This time round, the state has poured much more, even the financial wherewithal. You can even see it in the size of the Kenyan delegation in Addis Ababa as we speak today. But I think also another reason, perhaps which none of these analysts have taken keen note of, is that we now live in a moment of a different kind of global politics. And I do know, and Raila does appreciate this, that the kind of global politics that we live in today is one that needs firebrand kind of diplomacy. The European Union is already doing it. In fact, if you watch J.D. Vance's speech yesterday, they are talking, everyone is now talking about insularity to protect their boundaries from the otherness of the world. I think an aspect of global diplomatic politics that has not infiltrated the analysis. The European Union, where they talk Americans, in fact, Americans are now talking about Trump's exceptionalism or perhaps Trumpism or fundamentalism. The idea being, let us close our boundaries to the others. And these others are people from the global south. And I do know that even as the heads of states will be casting their vote, that's why this politics, this round is different from the one of 2017, they do know that the African continental diplomacy needs to be reimagined. And I think that reimagination perhaps can come to somebody who has a bigger stature, a bigger posture, perhaps much more than foreign affairs ministers or former prime ministers who are vying for this position.
All right. And how does that reimagination happen, Gordon, given that the appreciation over this desk this morning of them versus us and a deep multilateralism. So how will whoever then takes over from Musa Faki Mahamat be navigating these very complex waters that appear apparently underpinned by self-interest and more inward-looking policies, as J.D. Vance pointed out to the European continent yesterday when he spoke in Munich during the Munich Security Conference? And do you think that is the direction that any of the winners today will be taking?
Well, anyone who takes this today, hopefully Raila does, but anyone who takes this today, they have two clear things that they must look at. One is the national interest of states. And it will not just be national interest of states as in the collectiveness of Africa, but the national interest of states at individual levels. Africa have shared commonality around the continent. However, each and every state that today will vote for the winner, ultimately, will look at not just the candidate Kenya. We know it's Kenya in the ballot, but they will not look at the candidate Kenya. They will look at the candidate's persona and personality of that individual. Is he someone who is capable of rallying Africa towards a common cause? Is he someone who is capable of standing in front of the global north and chart a diplomatic course for the sake of the continent? Africa is going to look at, it's going to be inward looking.
All right, Gordon, just to cut you briefly, the session at the moment is underway. We have seen the chairperson of the African Union, Musa Faki Mahamat, they are about to kickstart the proceedings at the plenary hall where the activities of the day will be underway, and you can see him there also in the company of the secretariat. And if we have, of course, sound, we can cross over and listen briefly to the proceedings from the plenary.
Your Excellencies, ambassadors here present, heads of African Union organs and regional economic communities and mechanisms, I also recognize the presence of our partners, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the press, and all distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. May I now kindly call the Excellency Chairperson of African Union to call this meeting to order. Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Excellence, Dr Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République démocratique d'Éthiopie, notre hôte, honorable chef d'État et de gouvernement, chers collègues, Excellence Moussa Faki Mohamed, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, je souhaite une chaleureuse bienvenue une minute de silence à la suite de la disparition d'un grand combattant pour la liberté, Monsieur Samo Nujoma, père fondateur de la Namibie. Donc, je vous remercie. Merci. Je souhaite maintenant inviter le protocole de la Commission à nous décliner le déroulement de la cérémonie d'ouverture.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly call all of you to rise for the African Union anthem. Thank you. Your Excellency Muhammad Wil Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union. Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Your Excellencies, heads of states and governments of African Union member states. Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazin, President of the State of Palestine. Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Your Excellency Maya Moore Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. Your Excellencies, distinguished former presidents here present, Honorable Fairest Ladies here present, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners, and all the leadership of the Commission, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Your Excellency Mina Wamakela, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, Your Excellency Madame Nardos Bekele Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NIPAD, Your Excellency Dr. Jan Kaseya, Director General of the Africa CDC, Your Excellency Ambassador Marie-Antoinette Roscatre, Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, Your Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs of the Republic of South Africa, former Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, heads of United Nations specialized agencies and international organizations here present, سعادة نائب الأمين العام لجامعة الدول العربية ممثل الأمين العام, Your Excellency Luis Moshikiu Abo, Secretary General of the International Organization of La Francophonie, Your Excellency Dr. Warkena Yibiho, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Your Excellencies, Heads of COMISA, ECOWAS, SINSAT, EAC, ECAS, SADC, and UMMA, Your Excellency Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, a strong believer of the African development and prosperity, Your Excellencies Dr. Benedict Oki Orama, President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Your Excellency Dr. Sidi Wildeta, President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADIA, معالي الشيخ شخبوط نهيان آل نهيان, وزير الدولة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة, Excellencies, Permanent Observer Representatives to the African Union, and Excellencies, representatives of our partners to the African Union, all protocol observed, members of the press, a very good morning to you all. It gives me immense honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 38th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of States and Governments being held today at the Nelson Mandela Hall, the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. Addis Ababa, a vibrant city that has been at the heart of the Pan-African diplomacy and multilateralism, stands as a symbol of Africa's unity and progress. As a host nation of the African Union, Ethiopia plays a crucial role in fostering continental dialogue and advancing African integration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union holds significant importance as it will oversee the elections of the chairperson and the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Over the past years, the African Union has made remarkable progress in conflict resolution, mediation, and peacekeeping efforts, contributing to greater stability across the continent. Economic transformation has been further strengthened through the African Continental Free Trade Area and accession to the G20, contributing towards the implementation of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having said so, the program of today's opening ceremony will stand as follows. We will have a statement by His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, followed by a statement by His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, following which a statement by His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. We shall then have a statement by His Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine. Then His Excellency Mahmoud will Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, will make his opening remarks. Immediately after that, we will call the Dean of African Ambassadors in Ethiopia to introduce the new Bureau, members of the African Union Assembly, following which we shall have the handover ceremony for the Chairperson of the African Union. Then we will go to the launch of the African Union theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. Without any further ado, I have the great honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, President Mohammed Ould, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ethiopia, the cradle of Pan-Africanism and a proud champion of African unity and freedom. It is an honor to stand before you today as we reflect on the immense potential we hold, not just as individual nations, but as a united and dynamic continent. In a world marked by rapid change and multiple challenges, we find ourselves at a crossroads of uncertainty and opportunity. This moment calls upon us to strengthen our collective resolve, embrace resilience, and foster unity across Africa. The theme for this year's assembly calls on us to heal the scars of historical injustice and overcome lingering trauma that has long hindered our progress. The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society across the continent. Thank you. Thank you. Most importantly, the call for reparations requires not just words, but concrete actions to affirm the equal worth of every human being. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve lasting peace, justice, and prosperity, we must rise above the geopolitical tensions and the historical divisions imposed upon us by colonial borders. By fostering solidarity among all of our nations and embracing a shared destiny, we can pool our resources and talents to unlock our continent's full potential. Africa's cultural, ethnic, and linguistic diversity is a source of pride and strength upon which we must build inclusive governance and equitable development. Conflict resolution, diplomacy, and peace building must remain at the heart of our efforts. By championing African solutions to African challenges, we can secure lasting peace and stability. Let us celebrate our achievements in politics, science, economics, and arts. Strategic initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area give us the tools to boost intra-Africa trade, reduce external dependency, and achieve self-reliance. With Africa's large and dynamic use, abundant natural resources, and growing technological innovations, we have all the means to ensure sustainable growth. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, offers unprecedented opportunities to transform our economies and societies. By collaborating in AI, fintech, renewable energy, and mobile technology, we can address shared challenges such as climate change, infrastructure gaps, and public health crisis. Africa's rich and diverse data sets are essential for training robust and inclusive AI models. This highlights the importance of African representation in shaping future technologies. However, as we embrace these advancements, it's essential to protect our data sovereignty, prevent digital exploitation, and develop homegrown AI solutions that reflect African values and contexts. As our data sets grow, so must our capacity to harness them for local and global good. When used responsibly, AI can be a powerful tool in conflict prevention, transparent governance, and inclusive development. Africa must actively participate in the global technology race to ensure we are competitive players in the evolving digital landscape, while also ensuring we benefit equitably from this technological revolution. Furthermore, Africa's voice on global issues must grow stronger, ensuring that we have a say in shaping governance frameworks and other much-needed reforms in the global order. By empowering grassroots movements, youth networks, and educational programs focused on digital literacy and technological innovation, we can inspire the next generation. This will ensure Africa stands not just as a beneficiary of a global advancement, but as a key contributor in shaping the future of humanity. Excellencies, the opportunities before us are immense. Ethiopia is determined to prosper, guided by a vision of vibrant democracy, sustainable economic growth, rich cultural heritage, social progress, and a deep commitment to environmental regeneration. To realize this goal, we have laid out a pragmatic roadmap rooted in the transformative principles of Maddamar. Maddamar, an Amharic term loosely translated as synergy, is our guiding philosophy. It is a homegrown ideology that promotes prosperity, unity, sovereignty, security, and national dignity. At its core, Maddamar encourages social and economic advancement, celebrates diversity, and nurtures a spirit of community grounded in Ethiopia's rich culture, spirituality, and values. Reflecting on the progress of the past 5 years and building on the vision of Maddamar, Ethiopia has made remarkable strides. Despite inheriting a nation deeply divided along ethnic lines, burdened by substantial debt, and facing numerous internal challenges, we have moved forward with determination. At the same time, we navigated a complex and ever-changing regional and international landscape. Yet, through resilience and cooperation, we continue to move closer to the realization of our shared vision of prosperity. Our achievements speak for themselves. Allow me to share a few highlights. We have reformed our political system, transforming into an inclusive multi-party framework that reflects the diversity of our nation. To deepen these reforms and foster cohesion, reconciliation, and peace, we are undertaking a national dialogue. On the economic front, we have built a resilient and diverse economy. Over the past 5 years, we have doubled our cultivated land, increasing crop production to nearly 700 million quintals, with the wheat accounting for 40% of this total. These efforts have strengthened food security and driven rural development. Today, Ethiopia is the largest wheat producer in Africa. Thank you. Through collective efforts, we have reduced external debt by over 50%, double both GDP and GDP per capita, and tripled government revenue in 5 years, with an 8.1% growth reported in the most recent fiscal year. Across the country, our major cities are evolving into dynamic, culturally rich, and sustainable hubs. In education, we have established 40,000 kindergartens and primary schools to boost early childhood education. Additionally, we have launched a program to train 5 million coders to strengthen our digital economy. Furthermore, we strive to honor our heritage by restoring national sites, developing tourist destinations, and reclaiming cultural artifacts, fulfilling our duty as the guardians of our nation's treasures. These accomplishments reflect the unwavering spirit and resilience of the Ethiopian people and underscore our firm commitment to advancing Ethiopia's future. With its focus on unity, cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, Madamar can serve as a guiding framework for our Pan-African agenda. By embracing its principles, we can forge a path toward a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us march forward with determination, harnessing the limitless potential of our continent and its people. The time is now to claim our future, build a legacy of equality and prosperity, and secure dignity for all. Let us be the generation that unites the continent and our diaspora in a shared vision of justice, prosperity, and peace. To conclude, I thank our outgoing chairperson, President Muhammad Ould, for his leadership and representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our newly chairperson, President Joe Lorenzo, and wish him success during his tenure. I would also like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed for his exemplary leadership as chairperson of the African Union Commission over the past 8 years. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency Musa Faki has shown unwavering commitment to Africa's development, peace, and integration, significantly strengthening the African Union's role in addressing the continent's challenge. I also extend my sincere thanks to him for being a steadfast friend of Ethiopia, supporting us not only during our times of success, but also in our moments of difficulty. Thank you, my brother. As we bid farewell to His Excellency Musa Faki, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to our incoming chairperson of the African Union Commission here in Ethiopia. I'm confident that under his leadership, we'll continue to make great strides toward achieving our collective goals. I wish him every success during his mandate. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful summit. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement, and thank you for the generous hospitality extended to our